Greetings and welcome to Scam Takedown Task Force, a channel dedicated to finding scams on the internet and taking them down. I'm your CEO Dan, and today I hope to teach you guys how to identify fake stores online. Now typically you're going to find one of these fraudulent storefronts through one of the social media platforms because apparently they don't have the time or the energy to take them down. Now what I want to do for you guys is break down the key points of what I do to identify a store from being legitimate or fake, and that starts at the ad level. Most of these stores you're not going to stumble across when you do a search on Google. They're going to be found more often by sponsored ads on Facebook and Twitter. Now in an advertisement, the very first thing I do is look at the name of the company, the name of the ad or the page or whoever it is putting that ad in front of me. I'm looking for spelling, I'm looking for punctuation, I'm looking for odd spacing. Next, if it's an advertisement on a social media platform like Facebook, you typically have the ability to go and figure out who is actually giving you the ad. And in Facebook's case, you can click on the name at the very top of an ad of the sponsor, and it will bring you to the actual page. I recommend doing this before you go to a website because going to the page will give you much more information to make a better informed decision about whether or not you trust this site or not. When I'm on here, I'm looking at the logo first because that's the very first thing you see on the left, and we read left to right. If it looks pixelated, if it looks like it's cropped oddly, it's typically not a good sign because a lot of companies are going to spend a decent amount of money on their branding. And if it's off, especially on the social media platforms that they're advertising on, it doesn't look good for the company. Then I look at the name. The name of the company should be properly capitalized, should be spaced correctly. Typically, you run into scams which will use lowercase only or uppercase only, or they'll have the first name is lower and the last name is upper, or the other way around. They're not good with using the shift key. You see that a lot, not just there, but pretty much across all of their page. The next piece that I would be looking at is the page history. I go there and I see, is the page created within the last couple months, or has it been around for a while? Is it owned by people in the United States or managed by people in the United States? Has it changed its name recently or ever? And if it has, what was it called before? And does that line up with the same kind of concept that they're doing now? These are all pieces that I would be looking at to say whether or not this looks like a legitimate business or not. Then I go and check post. Post, there's two different things that you're looking for. Frequency. If it's a legitimate business and they're trying to get their name out in social media, a page is going to post pretty consistently. They're not going to have about for a couple months and then stop posting and then they come back and start posting again later on. They're going to want to be consistently posting all the time. And then how about the wording in the post? Do the posts look off? Are they capitalized correctly? Do they have multiple exclamation marks? If it looks unprofessional and it looks very badly written, then those are red flags that you should be very wary about buying anything or going any further once you start seeing that. Another thing is you can take the images that they have in those posts and do something called a reverse image search on Google, where you can just drag and drop that image into Google and it will pop up all of the different websites that it knows of that match that exact image. If you have other websites coming up or other pages coming up with that, you can be pretty confident that what you're looking at is either a Chinese crapware product or it's an illegitimate page trying to pass off as the actual product. After I do that, I typically will look for the name of the page on whatever platform that I'm on. So in this case, Facebook, I do a search on Facebook for this particular page's name, and if it comes up with other pages that match with a similar logo but just different spellings or different looks to the name, it's pretty good indicator that what you're looking at is a scam. At this point, if you run into any of the roadblocks along the way, it's a pretty good indicator that the website's not going to be any better. So don't go to the website. You can just leave the page, or even better, report it if you think that is actually a fraud. If they're doing something like bait and switch and they're taking products and making it look like a different product, absolutely report that. Get those pages taken down as quickly as possible. Say you happen across a page on the internet through random searching, or you made it through this stage and everything so far looked pretty legitimate and you got to the website. Well, the first thing I look at is the actual layout of the website. If it doesn't look like it's done by a professional and it's kind of like misshapen, things are kind of weird, if you can't read something because of a really poor decision as far as design goes, it's a pretty good indicator that it's either a really new business who is just getting off the ground and like had their nephew build the website for them, or it's a scam site that was just copy and pasted somewhere and they just are really bad at doing that. The first thing I like to do is go to the About section and check to see if they have a valid shipping and return policy. Typically a shipping and return policy is a 30-day policy with exchanges available. Now that varies state to state. It's not always 100% guaranteed whatever you're buying is going to be returnable to. So there's no cut and dry actual return policy, but if it looks like it was written poorly, or if it was just copy and pasted from somewhere else, if it has some sort of spelling mistakes in there, you can be pretty sure that you're not going to get your money back if you need to return something. It also should have an email or phone number to contact customer service if you need to, because if it doesn't have either of those and a valid shipping address listed in there, it's a pretty good bet that it's not legitimate. The next piece I do is go to the terms and conditions. This is typically a lot of legalese and it's just kind of boring to read through, but there's a few key points that you want to look at. The very first part is always a section that identifies who the actual website or who the terms and conditions are applying to, the we part of it. And if that name doesn't match up with the website, then they probably copy and pasted that from somewhere else. If it doesn't, that is a huge red flag and is probably they're going to take your money and run. Next section I like to look at is the contact section. I want to see an address that goes to a legitimate business. So if I type that exact address into Google, I want it to pop up and say, hey, this is this store on this street, and it matches up with the address and the store name on the website. I also like to see a customer service email address there. Legitimate businesses, especially ones that are well established, will have a phone number listed. If it doesn't, I don't like that. It's definitely something that makes me wary about buying from them. And if it does, then I like to take that phone number and do the exact same thing I did with the address, type it into Google, see what comes up. I should run into a business again with the same type of information, but if it doesn't come with that and it goes to someone's actual, like someone's home phone or cell phone, that doesn't sit well with me. Then we go and look at some of the content or some of the products that they're selling. Do the products have similar descriptions? Does it look like you took one description and you pasted it onto another one and you just did that for all of them? In best case scenario, you're going to get Chinese junkware shipped to your house through some drop shipping method. And in worst case scenario, you're going to lose a lot of money and not get anything. Legitimate companies are going to spend the time to go and actually fill in a proper description, even if it is tedious and boring to do. They want to come off as legitimate, and that's part of it. A professional business has a description that makes a product stand out between all the rest of their products. Then you can also do the same thing that you did with the product images on Facebook, where you do the reverse image search, and if it comes back with results that are on AliExpress or Alibaba or some other Chinese junkware site where they're mass producing these things and shipping them to you, or if they come up on Amazon or even another storefront, it's a pretty good indicator that somewhere is fake. Now this isn't something to do with the website, but I like to take the name of the website or the name of the company and go to the Better Business Bureau and do a search on them there. If it comes back with a rating and it has an actual positive rating like an A or an A+, then that's probably a good indicator that the business is a legitimate business. If it doesn't show up there, it's not necessarily that the business is illegitimate, but it is something that you should be wary about. I also do the same thing and go to Google just to see if Google has both the store listed on there and if it has any reviews there. So this is the process that I take when I'm breaking down a website, and I hope that you've learned something along the way. If you have, please consider liking the video and then hit subscribe for more videos like this in the future. Also consider sharing this with some of your online shopper friends who might be browsing around in some weird internet sites out there. If you'd like to follow me on Twitter and Facebook, I have links for those down in the description below. I also have a website where you can go and report scams that you find on social media platforms, so that way we as a community can take them down. Until next time, I've been your CEO, Dan. Dismissed.